It's finally here. Welcome to the Miracle Zone. More than a podcast, this is a sacred space for visionary leaders and heart-centered entrepreneurs who are ready to take off the masks, set aside the roles, and step into the raw, magical truth of what it actually means to lead in these transformational times. More than just building a business and a brand, you know that you're also here to share your medicine, lead a movement, and leave a legacy. If you've been craving next level conversations to get you to your next level, conversations that blend bold leadership, intuitive wisdom, and a touch of the miraculous, then you're in the right place. Because around here, we don't do things in a linear way. Whether you're already running a thriving business, leading a dream team, and impacting millions, or you're still on your way there, here we'll break free from the old ways of doing things and step into a multidimensional way of creating and leadership. Because in the Miracle Zone, we explore the intersection of business, leadership, and frequency. It's where strategy meets soul, and where visionary ideas become reality. And they happen in a snap. I'm Katarina, your host, guide, and bridge between the practical and the mystical in life and business. I'll share insights, channeled guidance, and heart-opening stories from pioneering leaders like you who are living at the edge and reshaping the way that we lead in this new world. So if you're ready to tap into your miracle frequency, to embrace the heart-led leadership that changes everything, then join me. Because this, my love, this is the Miracle Zone. I ask, I see, I know, I trust, I be. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Miracle Zone podcast. And I'm not just excited, I'm delighted. I'm so delighted to be here with Asha D. Ramakrishna, who is a dear friend, who's also a beautiful mentor of mine, and just a beautiful embodiment of what it means to be a modern priestess in the world in this moment. And she's also doing so many beautiful things that we'll hear about today, including leading these amazing sacred pilgrimages. And I went with her last year to Egypt. We went on a beautiful Kemetic exploration, and it was a deep experience for me. And we are continuously growing our friendship and connection. And I'm just delighted to have you here, Asha. Thank you so much for joining me today.
That was an epic trip we had. Yeah, I love just that binds people together forever to have those soul experiences. So always happy to chat.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one of the things that I will always treasure about our connection is how it's just a perfect example of, I always talk about the miracle frequency pulls us together when in ways that make no sense. And I still remember having a moment, I think it was 11/11. I don't even remember which year now, November 11th. Your name just dropped into my head, and it was like, reach out to her and ask her about Egypt. And I had no idea that you were doing pilgrimages. I had no idea that you even took people to Egypt.
Wow.
And the name just arrived. And I'm like, she might think I'm crazy, but let me just pop her a message and just say, hey, any chance you're going to Egypt? So it was a perfect example of, I could have used my head or my reasoning, or I know many people leading these types of pilgrimages, but it was just an answering of the sacred calling. And I think that says a lot about how I move through the world, but also how you move through the world, to be putting out that signal through the ethers for me to just be like,
listen, it is not me.
Her.
Trust me, I would be calling a lot more people, but I definitely do get that. One person was like, I had this dream, and in the dream, I got the priestess code. And so I went to Google And I found you. Like these things, I promise you, this is not something I'm doing consciously. It
Of
is
course.
just the field is just, oh, you want that? Here's the person.
Exactly. Connecting all the dots. And speaking of the Priestess Code, here's one of your books.
Thank
You have 2 books. Do you want to share just what the 2 books are? Because they're all both really special in their own way. Just so the
Thank
readers know. We
you.
can connect them in the links too.
So the Priestess Code, Awakening the Modern Woman, the one that you just showed, is a synthesis of earth and moon wisdom that I received in a transmission and during a time that, of course, I was like deep in exploration, but I was not living that way. And they just transformed the way that I was like thinking and operating in life to, I guess you could say, more towards the goddess way. And then the second book is Your Soul Map. It's a human design book for people of color. And we really talk a lot about, I co authored the book, and we talk a lot about re indigenizing the parts of human design. And then also, how do we make these systems that are mass disseminated actually make them fit to some of us have to deal with other things in the system of oppression, right? And so, how do we like work around that? Or face it, but then also really step into our birthright to thrive in the world. Yeah, those are the 2 books so far.
2 beautiful resources for everyone who's listening to check out. And I know there's many people in my space who love human design and it serves them very deeply. So I definitely recommend checking that out to get a different perspective and an important perspective on how we work with that framework and all the different frameworks. It's insightful for that. So, Asha, I'm so excited because we were tuning into what we were going to talk about. And one of the things that you speak to so much is sacred commerce. And so I wanted to spend some time today just swimming in that a little bit and figuring out what exactly that is, because I think it's so easy for us who own businesses and who are working in the entrepreneurial space, see that as like counter to the sacred, having to choose between one or the other. And how do we work with both? And so I think that's beautiful, juicy topic for us to dive into. So I guess my first inquiry is, what exactly is sacred commerce? I hear you say those words a lot and I'm like, yay, that sounds amazing. But what actually are we talking about here?
Yeah, I think the mystery of it still stands, even for the steward of it, because my sense is that we find ourselves at an intersection of remembering lifetimes ago when our devotion and our service was supported by society or an institution so that we could have the space to be in ceremony, be in healing spaces, be in our own knowledge and learning, becoming the infolding and the outfolding of the priestessing. And this is also for mystics. And so we remember that. And we are today in this capitalist framework, really trying to make sense of like, how do we bring these ancient parts of who we are, this part of us that wants to do good, but this part of us that definitely needs and wants to have a financial structure. And many of us end up having to do that on our own. Not necessarily, of course, like we can still be spiritual modern priestesses and work for a company. Absolutely. Right. But the ethos, that the current that moves through us feels ancient. And we're in this adaptation of how do we bring it to this very modern world. And in many ways, we all go through these moments where I fucking hate this. And then there's these moments where, no, I'm ready for this. I'm ready to set things up differently. I'm ready to not just make a lot of money and be able to give percentages to causes that I care about, but I also want the things that I'm building and the things that I care about to do good for generations to come and to be inclusive and to also free lands. So some of us are thinking more than just about our own fountain of wealth And then also, like, how does that get to ripple out? And how do we get to enroll other people to care about these things too? So it feels to me that it is emergent. And it feels to me that it's not a like, this is how it works, but more of an invitation of come to this temple. And in this temple, you get to have a direct relationship with these ethos, and you get to develop how this energy, this methodology, this framework informs you and it imprints in you so that you take it, so that you also get to be emergent in your own expression of what sacred commerce is.
Ooh, I love that. So a few things stuck out as you were talking. One of them was how you were saying how. And what was coming to me is how in this space, I think we've all seen that very viral TED talk. It was Simon Sinek where it's start with why, start with why. And I feel like we are pretty clear on the why, and the how matters with especially the business management aspect of the work that I do. There's a lot of time spent with how do we bring these visions into manifest form. So the how actually really matters. And so as you were speaking about different ways and explorations, it's the why, it's the what of we want to leave and the legacy, but the how of how we actually do it is actually really important. And I think that's where we don't really have good blueprints or templates, because right now the how is the capitalism, the how is the patriarchy, the how just doesn't fit. And it's like, how do we figure out what the how is that works for the collective, but also for each of us based on how we ideally operate?
Yeah. And there isn't an absolute answer for that. And maybe that's frustrating to hear, but also can feel really liberating to also be in the magic and in the curiosity of what happens when we gather and we create this web of people who care and people who are interested, not just in the spiritual component of being alive, the material, and then also the impact of those two. And I know, like for me, even as I've been in relationship with this framework for now 10 years, it has evolved. And I'm now thinking about, so I've been mostly in this conversation of like, how does this get to happen in a more entrepreneurial setting and helping people build that? And now I'm moving my attention to a more corporate setting. Like, how do we actually get to translate this into corporate and still respect the way that people see the world? Like, maybe they're not going to go and have a sacred fire with me, but maybe some will. But if they're not willing to do that, is there another way that we can be respectful of the agreements that are made within that community of how we're going to operate, but still translate those effects? And I'm like in really deep exploration of how that gets to happen in those spaces.
I love that. That reminds me of just conversations around ethos and then culture. I think we take so for granted the culture, whether it's within our business, even if it's a small business, for working with other people, or just how we relate to our clients, but also in corporate too. It's that finer detail of the how are we doing this together? How are we moving together in the space? How are we creating together? What is that culture of creation that we're doing together?
And it requires a lot of honesty. Well, obviously, when it's just yourself, it requires a lot of honesty with self.
Yeah.
Right.
And transparency.
And then when we start enrolling other people into the ecosystem, yeah, sometimes we have to have conversations, and it's okay if we don't have conversations immediately, but we do have to earmark certain spots throughout the year where we get to have those conversations and everybody come to the table in curiosity and a more expansive way of thinking about, okay, what actually serves me as an individual, what serves the whole ecosystem, and do we have to make space for other people in here? And then what ends up happening a lot with any conversation around money, or in our karma dharma work, we talk about institutional dependency, that many of us as priestesses and mystics, we carry this like kind of energy of we've been institutionally dependent, right? Whether it was like governments or temples or religions, right, that held us and fed us and clothed us and gave us sanctuary and life and purpose and all these things. Now we're like in this, what do I do if I'm not institutionally dependent? And we come with sometimes with energy around a little bit of fear, right? Of, oh, I can't say the thing because I'm going to lose out. Or even when we're even if we're doing this on our own, sometimes that shift in what we're doing is really scary because it affects our bottom line.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the thing that's I'm hearing, you and I started this conversation before we recorded talking about ego death. And I think that also gets to play that the way in which our soul evolves, and if we let it evolve, also gets to play in the space of how we are outward, right? Which is like commerce, is like the outward rendering of services and products for others.
I love that. And what came to me too, I love that you mentioned the fear. And what also came up for me was resentment. Do you ever feel that? Not just the fear of, like I'm used to having like benefactors and being the sacredness of the work being upheld. But now it's like, we have those like, I need to do it all moments, even though we know we're not doing it all. But at least for me, I'll be honest, like I will get resentful. Just I'm a single mother and I'm doing fine and I can do it and I love it with all my heart. And I'm still somewhat resentful that I'm like literally doing 150% of all the things because I don't have a co-parent. And so there's that underlying, very similarly, resentment of like, hello, I can't believe I need to do this and think about the financial things and the ramifications of different actions and the safety and all of that. Have you experienced that yourself? The only resentful modern priestess around.
I think it's normal to be human, right? Like that, our humanity is part of that's the Shakti. That's the Shakti in us. That's the true testament of being alive on this plane, is the spectrum of everything that we feel and the frustration and the laughter and the tears and all of that. And sometimes, I have my temper tantrums with the divine. Like, I'm just like, I cannot. I like this. If this doesn't, I cannot. Okay. And I think that's why sometimes I love also ceremony, to just sit in the honesty, not to have ceremony as a shopping list that we bring to the divine, but as a way to commune honestly, as a way to commune about the honest things that we're frustrated about, the human part. And then, yes, of course, we elevate the energy by making offerings and then like gratitude, right? And I am not an advocate of bypass the frustration with your list of gratitude, because I think that's just not real and it's not honest.
Yeah.
That energy wants to move, right? It just wants to move. And if it means that it's a confidant, somebody that you just complain to and move the energy, then you move the energy. And great. Now you can be available for something else.
Yeah. It's about that expansiveness and space for more and more. As you're saying that, I'm thinking of today. I've cried 2 times for completely polar opposite reasons. One was like to go pick up my son from school. I got that call of something happened. There's a bullying thing and he was not doing well. So they called me to pick him up from school. So I had that mama moment of just, he's fine. We'll get through, but just, again, here we go.
Yeah.
And just like getting myself ready and having to move it so that I could show up and be really present for him. And so there's the one spectrum of that. And then there was another one. This is a silly reason, but powerful. I always thought my life path number was 6. And I found out today that it's 33, which is
love it.
So obvious. I even live in house 33. And it was such a moment of clarity that was so obvious, but it was like one of those split seconds of it makes so much sense that I had like the opposite tears of just like remembrance and of course and of clarity. And I think these moments were like an hour apart, but it comes up, it moves, it's expressed, whatever it is, the frustration, the sadness, and all of the things. I think that's part of the territory.
You're reminding me of two things. One is you're reminding me of how useful these systems are for us to understand ourselves, but then also how careful we have to be to not give it so much power.
Yep.
And I had the same experience with human design. And I was like, I don't know who I am now. And I went through that experience and I thought, isn't it fascinating who I boxed myself to be to match this archetype versus utilizing it as a way to know myself? Yes, powerful, of course. But also, when we use these systems to box ourselves in, I think we lose the magic. We lose the curiosity. We lose the connection with what we don't know that could be available, that the gateway, the threshold that is before us. And yeah, I wanted to say that because I've had that experience, even though I'm like I do Vedic astrology sessions and human design sessions, and I incorporate all of that into sacred commerce, but I'm always like, take it with a grain of salt. Like, if it is you, great. And then, who knows? Maybe a person also just evolves past an archetype. And if you evolve past an archetype, then let yourself like be an exploration of what that is, just as when you were first discovering the first one.
Oh, that's so powerful. That's so powerful because I don't think we hear that often enough. I think it's so much of discover this so that you can blossom more into this, as opposed to discover this so you can blossom more into you and transcend that container, because you're not just that one blossom, you're the whole bush, you're all of it, you're all of creation. And we're so busy. Like for me, for example, by human design, I could be so busy being a 2-4 emotional generator and forget I can be more than that particular blossom. Can be so much more than that particular blossom. And my spleen is defined. And sometimes I get the spinning hits and I can't be like, no, I'm an emotion. I need to focus on just the emotion. It's like the information comes in many ways.
Yes.
And we really need to learn ourselves how we want to move through the world and what works and what doesn't. And I love all these systems. I love all the assessments. I think it's like a beautiful triangulation, but whatever that is times like 10. What is it? A decathlation? I don't know what that is. But it's like a prism and we see all these different aspects of us without overly defining it. So thanks for that reminder to not get so stuck into it.
And maybe I'm also like thinking a lot about that because of that ego death, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm seeing that as I'm walking into the next chapter of my life. You were talking about tending to your kid and also managing your business and your life, and you're getting ready for doing this, like all those things. And this is a season for you.
And we forget.
This season is not forever. Trust me, it is not forever. I know you know this, but being on the other side of 2 kids, like out, I am like, wow, yes, there's a grief, but there's also this, ooh, this is really great. Like, I really get to become not just mom. I get to, and not that I was just mom, like, I was obviously very active with life and I honor whatever path people are on. For me, it was a path of multitasking with life. It was like, I was mom and I was this and I was that. And now, the role and the responsibility of mothering, it's just been diminished. So it allows for the other parts of me that were just like hanging out, not holding back, tending to what was needed. Now those parts of me are knocking a little bit harder. And it's been amazing to just allow myself the space to say, oh shit, am I really willing to deconstruct what I've been to this point and allow the stillness to rebuild what's next. It's one of the principles in the priestess codes. Then obviously I've been in exploration of that for a good 15 or so years, but still, it still knocks on my door saying, can you let yourself be more of yourself? And if it looks so different on the outside, can you let it?
Can you let it? Oh my goodness. As we were talking through that invitation into the stillness and into, the shape shifting in many ways, or the shedding sounds more like a shedding, but I'll let you feel into the energy of that. But I felt like immediately like a drop in my energy. Can we let it?
I know. I feel so much compassion for all of us because many of us have really learned to keep our shit together and have our shit together. And we've gotten to a level of success in whatever way because of those skill sets. And when we hit another stride in life or business where we say, I want to start letting go of the thing that got me here. Because it's a new hero's journey that I'm upon.
It's a completely new cycle and a new season. Like we can't continue to bring it along.
Yeah. And I don't think it's that easy when you're crossing that threshold, but I do think that what's on the other end is definitely more alignment to the thing that we value as holy. Yeah.
And as we're speaking of that, I'm thinking about these beautiful pilgrimages that you lead to sites all around the world. What calls you to lead them? Because I know of course, we can do that work ourselves and we do in our day-to-day life, but there's such a power behind walking to these sacred sites, through these portals together, as we have before, that really accelerates that. I know for me, I went through a big integration and shift when I was with you last year in Egypt. Yeah, so I'm curious to hear a little bit about that and the role that can play in supporting us or accelerating. I don't want to say accelerating, that makes it seem like we're making it faster than it should be, but in amplifying and supporting us as we walk through those.
It definitely can be accelerating, right? Because it's okay. Here you are, 2 weeks of actually facing the thing, actually being honest, actually being yourself, actually having people around you accept you for who you are and not judge you. And what happens after 10 days, 2 weeks of being in that? Never mind the interdimensional travel that you do when you go to sacred sites and temples, and especially when you go to places that the lineage is intact. It's like, whew, we go to the Akash, we go to all the realms and solutions, just like drop in our cells, our DNA. So I do feel really lucky to first get to do this work for myself and then also to invite people into, I don't know, the spaceship. I don't know what it is, but I love it so much. I remember years ago, I would travel for consulting clients and I would travel to like places that nobody would be like, this is a holy site. And I would find the holy site in the place and or have this like magical pilgrimage like experience. And I thought, oh, this is just who I am. And so I feel like I want to bring people into this wave that I've caught about what it means to be a modern priestess, to visit these sacred sites or these places that hold a lot of energy. And I had somebody say to me in this last trip to India, she said, I feel that the transformation that I received, because when she first arrived, she was like, I'm so much in my masculine. There was this like intensity that this is what she said. It's like, there's this intensity about me. And through the pilgrimage, what now I see in her is this like lightness and this like love of life. And I asked her, I was like, oh my gosh, you look so light. Tell me, she's Asha. it was, I think, I can't even believe how organically the transformation in me happened. I feel like I could have gotten the same thing accomplished if I was locked in with a therapist for 2 weeks. But this was not like that. This was like, and now we laugh, and now we eat, and now we sit in ceremony, and now we chant, and now we like shop, and all these things that are just feel so organic and beautiful. And also there are moments where we cry, of course, where we face and we say, no, I'm done with that. I'm done with that. I don't want to be that. I don't want to act like that. I don't want to keep propelling this kind of way of feeling or being or relationships or money or whatever. And then people make decisions when they come home and say, yeah, this is how I'm going to do things. And there's also another beautiful thing that it's like a sort of the background shift that happens when we are with a group of people who accept us through all our human things, even when we're cranky, and they keep accepting us and keep laughing with us and keep having a good time with us and keep hugging us and wanting to get to know us, that we deeply heal that part of us that feels, that part of us that protects those tender parts of ourselves. And that has no price. And you can't even market that, right? It's like you can't even market, you can, but you don't know until you live it and you're like, oh, damn, I really accept myself because I've taken myself through the process of letting others see me and accept me.
And it's something you can't do really by yourself. We can only do it in group
Yeah.
and with somebody really holding a beautiful, powerful space for that. And then we add in the energies of the site, the sites and the portal. That's all bonus. But I think it really starts with that. What you just said is, oh, I can just be me. I could just be me. Because we spent so much time efforting around the performance of me as opposed to who me is.
It's so big. Like when we really get honest about, but it's so natural to us. Our performance is so natural to us because that's the sort of egoic part of us that has kept us safe. We had to perform.
Of course.
We had to perform. And then when we feel safe enough to drop the performance and allow for the realness to be the thing that shows up, it's deeply vulnerable, but it's also deeply beautiful.
Absolutely. And this brings us a little bit full circle to where we began. I think that's the aspect of sacred commerce and also having our own businesses is until we reach a point where financially we feel like, okay, we're good, things are flowing. I can take the risk. I can take more risks and say more things that are authentic and true without worrying about the repercussions of that. And maybe I can perform a little bit less because now it's, oh, I have my people and I have my clients and I don't need to perform as much to just stay safe and to keep receiving sustenance in the world. Oh, I love watching this in brands actually over time. How usually we start off a bit more authentic because we're new, and then we start learning the rules of the game, and then we start getting a bit more performy. We're playing the game, it's natural. We're learning again, it's survival, it's smart, it's intelligent. We're playing the game. Brands start getting really polished, the copy starts sounding really good, the funnels get amazing. But then there's that point where we're, wait, like, where's the me in this?
Yeah.
Perfect little branded package. Just like we were talking about this little box of what type are we or how we see ourselves, there's also the branding package of the business.
Yeah.
But then it's like, but wait, like for me, I always notice this because I love laughing. You know me, like I'm a big laugher. I love humor. It's just how I like to move through the world. But sometimes it doesn't translate as well in, my content because I'm like channeling and whatever. That's what's coming through. And the great mother is sending a message and it's important. And sometimes she'll make us laugh, but I want to get the message. But then I'm like, but where's the human here who like, where's the laughter? And then I need to notice that and be like, wait, how is this a performance? Because it's a bit stale. It's like, where's my weird, quirky laughter aspect of me? And how can I let that out? And then it becomes a refinement and a more authentic over time. So it's like we start authentic and rugged and it gets really polished. And they're like, wait a second, bring me back. And that's a big part of that I've seen is where the finances are too. Do we feel safe to start to, get a bit less perfect? Even though I think by doing that, the finances will flow more because we're more authentic. But I don't know. It's really interesting. I've never explored this before, but
Yeah,
there's a connection.
there is. And so one of sort of the principles in sacred commerce of how we differentiate, let's think of it as like energy, right? There's the energy of you have a soul, and your business has a soul. So there are two separate souls. And then there's you, like just you. And then there's you as the entrepreneur or the CEO or the marketer or what have you, like all these roles that you play. And of course, when we are promoting a personal brand, it's a little different than when we are stewarding a body of work.
Yeah.
So Asha is not sacred commerce. Asha is the steward of sacred commerce. And so sometimes, yes, I will have to, maybe that's where the performance part is handy, right? Is okay, I have a role to play with sacred commerce because I've made this agreement with sacred commerce. And in order for people to understand sacred commerce, there are things that maybe Asha wouldn't say it that way, but sacred commerce is calling that more forward. And so the distinction of the two, I think, matter in the conversation with the energy of what we steward matters, because otherwise we're building another codependent relationship that nobody wants. And then we definitely get very bitter about that. And then the thing that we're stewarding doesn't actually get to move forward. So I think sometimes like just understanding who needs to be talking here and what's my role with what I'm moving forward. And I think it's okay to have like those personal quirky things that we have. And that like for those of us who have humor is so vulnerable because you're right. Like when you have people in front of you and people laugh at the thing you say, then it's okay, good.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. I'll keep going. But then when you're like on social media and you're like, okay, did anybody laugh? Because I thought it was funny, but I don't know. But I think it's also okay to not know and just be like, this is who I am too. There's that personal part of me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I notice that a lot. I feel like I have that kind of relationship with the miracle frequency. It's like, it's something I'm working with. It's not me. And even some events that I'm doing, I'll say with Katerina and the miracle frequency. It's like we are both present. You get me, but there's also this other entity present that's here doing the work with us. And and when the miracle frequency shows up, the miracle frequency is very different in energy and it's very cinematic and very archetypal. It's just a different vibe. And so it's like going back and forth is who's showing up? How are they communicating? Is it clear to people? And also I've noticed for me, for loved ones or people who know you outside of this context, they see the other energy showing up and they're like, who's that? That's not you. And that feels like a performance. No, it's not a performance. That's like an energy that it's an embodiment of that energy as it wants to show up and as it wants to share and communicate and do a transmission. And then it goes away and then it comes and it goes away. And I've found in the past that's been confusing for people. And even in relationships, people just being like, I don't understand. I don't really understand. And I actually had a really good conversation with my mother. I think it was at end of last year. I was really thinking about authenticity in my voice and the business. And she was saying how sometimes she'll see me speak and she's like, who is that person? It sounds so different than the Katerina that I know. But and then I asked her, but does it feel inauthentic? She says, no, it doesn't feel inauthentic. It feels also true. It's just different, but they're both authentic. It's like you don't have to choose between one or the other. It's just this is in this frequency and this is in that frequency. And it all gets to be here. We're embodying all the faces of the goddess. We're not supposed to be one anyways. But we don't give ourselves permission to do that without questioning our own authenticity.
And then sometimes other people don't give us permission to be another thing. And as you were talking, I was also thinking about what has supported me and other people into like, all right, what do I want to explore here? And there's this concept of our Dharma, right? In Sanatan Dharma and like modern day Hinduism, there are these 4 fulfillments of the soul. One is Dharma, or your sacred duty or purpose. One is Artha, which is prosperity. Yes, sacred scriptures ask us to be prosperous. And third is Kama, pleasure, like the Kama Sutra, right? Kama is pleasure. And then finally is moksha, liberation. And in that order of priority. That's what the Bhagavad Gita.
I didn't realize, I've heard of it before, but I didn't realize that there is an order. Amazing.
At least the Bhagavad Gita explains it as this is the order of priority. First, Dharma. First, get yourself right. First,
understandably.
Right thing. Then get your money. Then enjoy it. And then spend some time in liberation. And some people believe that moksha is really about passing on to the next plane, but it doesn't have to be, because we can explore liberation here, right? And less material, more ethereal. But within that Dharma piece, I have found, I know some people do archetypal work with that to like tune into the energy, like you were saying. Ooh, what's the frequency of priestess? What's the frequency of mystic or singer or dancer? And not quite archetypal, but so this is more on the Sufi tradition. They look at karma and dharma a little bit differently. And the way that they look at karma, just because everybody understands that, right? I know in Sanatan Dharma, it's really about cause and effect. And you come into this lifetime based on what happened in previous lives. And then so you deal with the mess and the bless that you brought, but you like try to like bring consciousness so that you can undo some of the mess from the fore and elevate your own journey. In Sufism, it's seen a little bit more similar, but I think a little bit different angle. It's seen as these imprinted memories that you have acquired through lifetimes. And these imprinted memories cause you to experience certain things, like the patterns are a certain way. And then the Dharma, again, in Sanatan Dharma, this is about the Dharma is like your sacred duty. Like you got to do this thing, even if you're humans. No, like you got to like if God called you, if the goddess called you, you got to go do that thing, right? And get over yourself a little. And in this concept, they in Sufism look at Dharma as the ornaments of the soul. And I like to blend both because I just like the angle of explaining it so beautiful. These are the ornaments of your soul. And there are certain ornaments of your soul that really want your attention in this lifetime. It's not one, it can be multiple. And maybe now, if you're in a certain stage in your life, maybe the ornament of the soul of mother is what calls you, or the orchestrator. And then you hit another stride, and then there's some other part of your soul that says, it's now our time. And these Dharma types, sometimes it'll like you can be in like trying to understand, what am I here to steward within myself? And it'll seem like it's coming from left field. It'll seem like I know nothing about that. I know 20 years ago, now 20 years ago, when one of my teachers said to me, you have the priestess dharma type and it's really big on you. And I was like, I know nothing. I don't know what that means. I know nothing. And that really started my journey in trying to understand, what does it mean to be a priestess, and especially a priestess in this scenario, not in the scenario ancient India or ancient Egypt, but right now. And it's been the dharma type that's walked with me for many years. Yeah.
Do you have any specific resources that you use to work with that with your clients, or?
Yeah. So I have a list of the predominant dharma types. I have a beginning list and the extensive list of the dharma archetypes. And I do have a workbook that people can just download and just walk through all the different layers. So it takes a look at your dharma type, but then also combining with what your natural gifts are and what the skills that you have, and blending all of those together. Because if you told me 20 years ago, go be a priestess, I was like, what? Like, I'm a molecular biologist. I got to feed my children. I don't know how to incorporate this into my life. So it wasn't like my vocation, but it began my journey of exploring this aspect of me that can sit with people and help them merge the soul and the human. So yeah, I'm happy to
Beautiful.
share the link with your people.
Great, everyone. You can check that out in the links. I love that. And I love how you say there's the list and then the more extensive, the layers, the spiraling. But when we follow the spiral, it's so powerful. Imagine starting as a molecular biologist, it's spiraling into this.
And now we become all the things. We
Now
let
we
it become
become
what it
all-
wants.
Oh, so beautiful. Asha, it's been so beautiful to have this time to connect with you and to explore all of these different areas. And I'm so grateful to have you in my life. And for everybody who's tuning in, do check out Asha and her beautiful work, her pilgrimages if you feel called, in case you're sleeping at night. Maybe her name will drop into your awareness. Don't be shy to reach out to her.
Definitely. Yeah, I probably post most on Instagram than anywhere else. Yeah, that's probably where
Beautiful. Yeah. So check her out on Instagram too. And thank you so much, Asha, for joining us today. And for everybody listening, I'll see you in the next episode.
Thank
Bye,
you for
everyone.
hosting me.
Thank you for tuning in to the Miracle Zone. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a transmission. And if today's episode and conversation resonated, leave a review and share it with a fellow visionary leader. In the links, you can access my free Miracle Business Blueprint, the 7-part framework I use with my clients to create a thriving, scalable, and self-sustaining business that gives you more freedom, not less. Plus, you'll receive a guided process to identify where to focus first so you can spend more time leading in your miracle zone right away. Let's build the new as a collective for the collective. Together, we're not just creating miracles, we're living them. Until next time, stay in the miracle zone.